So the Game Awards 2023 is right around the corner, and just like every other Game Awards presentation, there's always controversy surrounding it. You know, my favorite game wasn't nominated. Why is this game here? Some of these categories are stupid, and I get it. You know, really what's supposed to be a celebration of video games usually becomes some sort of discourse online while Jeff Keighley sits back and watches the madness happen and unfold and then collects a nice paycheck over it. Shoutouts to you, Jeff. Secure the bag, but maybe throw the bag a little bit my way or something. Like, where was my nomination for gaming content creator of the year? VTubers, weird Minecraft streamers, whatever, man, whatever, it's all good. But one category this year is definitely causing a lot of controversy, and it's not necessarily the game of the year, although we did talk about stuff like that. Evidently, the Xbox tax and all of this sort of stuff, I think it's a bunch of poppycock. I'm fine with the list of games, but I also would have been fine if something like Starfield or Hi-Fi Rush was involved in the game of the year conversation anyways. But one category that's been getting a lot of scrutiny is, of course, the indie game of the year, because what should be a pretty dry and, you know, cut sort of situation here with what is the indie game of the year or what the nominees are has become a complete mess. And it almost goes to show you that maybe there needs to be more people in tune with gaming involved in this situation instead of places that are a bit more casual like Newsweek and the LA Times and stuff. I'm sure they have video game departments out there, but are they really in tune with what, you know, a lot of other gamers are? I'm not quite sure, but the indie game of the year has, of course, spiraled out of control because of Dave the Diver. He's been down too long in the Midnight Sea. Oh, what's becoming of me? Look out! Ride the tiger. You can see his stripes, but you know he's clean. It's been nominated at the Game Awards despite being funded by a billion-dollar publisher. So Dave the Diver is a game that, if you didn't know any better, like, yeah, it kind of looks like an indie game. You know, it doesn't have probably a big AAA budget or anything like that. A more simplistic pixel art style to it. It's not something that you're going to confuse for Grand Theft Auto 6 or a new Call of Duty game or anything like that. But that's kind of becoming a problem with this, because now we're starting to identify things by how they look instead of whether or not they are a true independent game or not. And when we start talking about billion-dollar publishers behind a certain game, obviously they're going to have a bit more of an advantage over a truly independent studio. You know, a studio of a handful of people who have no backing, who have no sort of funding or anything like that, who are trying to create their game. So why was this game nominated in the categories? Well, Jeff shares his opinion. You know, it says right here, this is Video Games Chronicle, Nexon, the company that published Dave the Diver, made $1.8 billion in revenue in 2021. Obviously, you know, just like those other indie companies out there. But Jeff says, look, it's a great question. Independent can mean different things to different people, and it's sort of a broad term. You can argue, does independent mean the budget of the game? Does independent mean where the source of financing was? Does it mean the team size? Is it the kind of independent spirit of the game, meaning a smaller game that's sort of different? No? Like, no, I think an independent is a pretty clear-cut, you know, sort of situation here. An independent thing is not something that is backed by a billion-dollar company. This feels like we're splitting hairs here. When you go to the eShop, you know, or the PSN or Xbox store or whatever it is, you could obviously tell when there's money behind a game and when the game is an independent game, meaning that there are no financial backers. This is something that's done by a small team of individuals. And when we start talking about billion-dollar entities publishing the game, I personally feel that, hey, you're no longer an indie game. You know, if you've built up to some point, and you could even say studios have built up to a point where they become bigger than an independent thing because of their success, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. But once we start talking about when we start adding like commas and stuff into the revenue, like, can we really consider them an independent game? He goes on to say, I think everyone has their own opinion about this, and we really defer to our jury of 120 global media outlets who vote on the awards to make that determination of something as if something is independent or not. You know, in other industries, sometimes there are things, I think in the film industry, that the budget can't be above this certain dollars or it's not independent, so I don't know. That's exactly what we're trying to tell you, though, Jeffrey. Look at me, Jeff. We follow each other on Twitter. I don't know why you follow me, because I've talked junk about your show, but I don't think you're a bad guy. But there's some big problems with what you just said here. Some big problems with what you just said. You're deferring this. You're passing the onus on to the 120 global media outlets who vote on these awards. Newsflash, Jeffrey. A lot of these people that are in the 120 global media outlets probably shouldn't be talking about this stuff, because we're going to go back to the LA Times. We're going to go back to the Newsweeks. Yes, they have video game sections of their publications, but it's not the focal point. I feel like it should be a video game primary publication that has that the onus is put on. These are the people that are nominating games. These are the people that are saying this game should be in there. And yes, when we start talking about funding, there should be a limit, Jeffrey. There's nothing wrong with doing that, especially when we're talking about a game that has $1 billion plus backer backing the game. It's no longer an independent game. Are we judging this on the art style? Because honestly, that's what it feels like we're really judging this on. We're not saying that this is actually an independent game. We're saying this looks like an independent game. And who's to judge what an independent game looks like? There's tons of 3D independent games out there that obviously have a bit more of a budget than other indie games. But you're kind of just stepping back on what you just said by saying, should we implement a dollar thing? You know, should this, that, or the other? It's a pretty clear-cut thing. There can be diversity in independent games. I say this all the time with these Indie World showcases. When you talk about independent games, there is a long list of styles and genres, and they're not just a smaller scale of a graphical style that we automatically assume this is an indie game. And it's ridiculous, because this is an award show. We're supposed to be awarding people for excellence in their field. And when we start talking about excellence in your field, obviously, a company with $1 billion backer is going to do better than 4 people sitting in a basement doing a passion project, or in an office space doing a passion project that ends up resonating with people and does really well. There's another interesting thing here that really just sort of points out, and you know, Greg Miller, you can say whatever about Greg, and I've already said it probably times a million, but Aaron Cini said, I understood both sides of the argument, but I do feel the term best indie game is more of a look and feel these days than a semantic over a definition. And shout outs to Greg. I'm not so, you know, even if I'm not like a huge fan of someone, if somebody makes a good point and I agree with that point, I agree with that point. Like, I respect your opinion, Aaron, but this is such a crazy argument to me. So if Naughty Dog set aside a 10-person team to make a pixel art 2D side-scroller, we'd put them in this category. I think you got to change the name of the category if that's the case. And 100%. Because that would be like saying Child of Light, which was an RPG game that was a small Ubisoft offshoot game. Like, that would be an independent game because it had a smaller studio, even though that studio is a part of Ubisoft, and Ubisoft published this game and promoted this game, and Ubisoft is obviously a very large publisher. I don't understand why we're making things harder than they need to be. And like, I understand the Game Awards are supposed to be a celebration of video games, but are they? Are they really? Because all it does is piss people off. All it does is cause debates. All it does is cause controversy. But if you're a fan of Eric Bischoff, you would know that controversy creates cash. And people are going to tune in to see what was there, what got snubbed, what game didn't win this, what game didn't win that. And then you're going to have online discourse over it over and over again. I don't feel like it's really a celebration of the games. You know what I'm saying? If that was the case, the awards would be the focal point, not the reveals. But we've learned time and time again that that's not necessarily the case. I agree with everyone on this. You know, Dave the Diver is not an independent game. If you have $1 billion publisher behind you, it's not an independent game. And for Jeff to kind of defer it to the people nominating the stuff just shows that the people nominating the stuff probably shouldn't be nominating the stuff. Like, I don't think that's a rude thing to say or anything. If they're not able to distinguish that, hey, Dave the Diver has a $1 billion publisher behind it, so therefore it is no longer indie. If they can't do a basic thing like that, why should I trust them to nominate anything or have an opinion about anything or talk about anything? And at the end of the day, the Game Awards is just an opinion, and that's why I always say none of this matters. None of this matters. If your favorite game got snubbed, your favorite game got snubbed, but you can make your own Game Awards, and honestly, it is just as valid as the Keighley Awards. Let me know what you think of this in the comments section down below. Obviously, Twitter and all these other places are on fire right now with this piss poor explanation of what an indie game is, and I just think it's funny. I just wanted to talk about it. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, all that YouTube crap. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.